Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of the Mindful Living podcast. This is Mona. I'll be your host for today. And on this episode, I wanted to chat a little bit about the hero's journey. So some of you may have used this for leadership coaching or leadership development programs. If you're a creative writer, or any type of writer, you may have also come across the hero's journey. So this is a process or a mythology that Joseph Campbell created. He basically searched connections in myths and stories of change that crossed many cultural boundaries. And he basically discovered that there's several themes that kept coming up in these myths and in these stories. And that's when he created the hero's journey. So it's quite a magical journey. And once you're familiar with the steps, you might be able to identify it in several movies or books that you've read or movies that you've watched. But something that was interesting is that recently I came across this framework as a tool to use in coaching and potentially for leadership programs. So again, some of you may already be doing this, but I wanted to go through some of the steps in the hero's journey to share this as a tool. I think it's really valuable to gain perspective. And when we talk about mindful living, we're really also trying to gain perspective on our lives. Once we gain perspective, we're in a better place to make decisions and to respond to what's happening around us rather than to react. And when we're responding to what's happening around us, we're consciously creating the type of life and work situation that we really aspire to. So the hero's journey starts off with hearing a call. So some people might liken this to a call to action. This is where yourself, if you're thinking of your own situation, you might think of a particular time, or it might be right now in your life, when you feel you're called to a particular action. Or if it's in the past, think of a time where you clearly remember there was a particular call or something telling you, or your curiosity telling you to search for something else that you need to be doing in life or at work. Once we hear the call and we're aware of what this call is, we then go into accepting the call. So accepting the call can be a really difficult stage for people. So if, for example, it's a call to do another type of work and your current work is something that gives you stability, gives you status, or anything else that you value, accepting the call can be quite difficult because there's a risk. There's a risk in what will happen to the status quo. There's uncertainty. Once we decide to accept the call, if we accept the call, we enter into the third step of the hero's journey, which is crossing a threshold. So crossing the threshold means we've entered into a zone that is outside of our comfort zone. This is potentially risky for us. This is where there's uncertainties, but we've made that decision. In this step, we have crossed the threshold and we've made that decision. The fourth step in the hero's journey is when a mentor comes upon us quite organically. So we've crossed the threshold, we've made that decision, we've made the jump, the risk, and unbeknown to us, a mentor comes along. So even though we're in a state of uncertainty, there's a mentor or several people that might come across our path in order to support us in our hero's journey. Step 5 in the hero's journey is facing a challenge. Some people might call this a demon, some people might call this an obstacle, some people might call this resistance. But it's something that comes as a result of crossing that threshold. So again, you'd have to remember that this is a new territory. So when we enter something new, there's space for learning, there's space for uncertainty, and in that uncertainty means that we're experimenting. And so naturally, challenges are going to come up for us, and this is part of that call. So when we're thinking about wanting to have change and a dynamic lifestyle, part of this includes having a challenge that we overcome. Step 6 is transforming the challenge. So this is basically recognizing this as either an opportunity to grow, or an opportunity to see things in another light, or an opportunity to really understand if crossing that threshold, what the outcome is, and building up resilience, or whatever your particular challenge or opportunity might be in this step. So it's very unique. The hero's journey is very unique, and everybody's different, and what someone might consider to be a challenge, someone else might think it's just a routine task, and vice versa. So it's very unique, and it's personal. And to, I guess, think about practicing compassion when we think about how we might have transformed this. So if you're currently experiencing this, think about how you are going about transforming this experience for yourself. Step 7 is completing the task, or completing the challenge or opportunity. So this is really about finding the way and fulfilling the calling. So you were originally called to do something, and now it's that point in time where you've fulfilled this calling. You've done what you were called to do. You've been curious. You've learned. You've applied. And perhaps it gives you a new perspective. This journey, having tried something new, potentially met new people, come across a mentor or mentors, done something that was risky or uncertain or felt scary for you, and you've learned something, or you've shared your experiences and your learnings. The last step in this process, step 8, is finding the way home, or returning home. Some people, after they've crossed the threshold, if they've actually physically gone somewhere new and they're now returning home, then it's a matter of how do you interpret what you have learnt to share that with the people at home in a language that resonates with them, that is understood by them, that matches where they are at in their journey. If you haven't physically left home, but you have encountered a particular challenge or opportunity and you've been transformed, then it could also be a matter of how are you going to share that, whether it's through the friends and family that you see and the colleagues, or will you reach out to new people and share what you've learned and share your journey. And it's also about how are you going to fit back into the norm? Are you going to fit back into the norm after you've been on such an incredible journey? So once we learn something new, once we overcome something new, what will our habits look like afterwards when we return home? Will this journey have changed anything for the better? Did we really reach something that is aspirational for us? So again, the hero's journey to me is really a way of gaining perspective and writing. You could potentially write up where you are at in each stage, and it could represent a moment in your life where you have been on the hero's journey, or it might be currently you're experiencing the hero's journey and you're reflecting on which stage you're at in the hero's journey. Well, I'm excited to hear if you have anything to share, if you've used the Hero's Journey for Leadership programs, or if you're going to apply it now into your own life or into your coaching practice, or at work, or in any way really, or even in your writing. I'd love to hear your feedback and comments. Feel free to leave some feedback in the comment section if you're on iTunes, or send me an email with your thoughts. Thank you again. You were listening to the Mindful Living podcast, episode 3, and I look forward to connecting with you again soon.